Now, I happen to know right now, so I hope my husband's listening or my child, that if I'm dying, dead, or you just don't want to put up with me anymore, please put me at Saad's.
Yay. Yeah, we will take care of you and your husband and your family.
Hello, Cheers to Business listeners. I'm Ashley Smith, Vice President of Wholesale Pharmacy for DocRx. With over 10 years of experience helping doctors and their patients with diagnostic tests, patient monitoring, medical supplies, compliance, wholesale pharmacy, physician, dispensing, billing, and much more. DocRx is your patient and health compliance solution, both under one roof, and always with the mission of the patient's health first. To find out how DocRx can help you, your hospital, pharmacy, physician's offices, and any PPE you need for your businesses, please visit us at docrx.com.
Your brand is who you are throughout your employees, what you do, what you offer, all of it. Having a true marketing person that knows that you're setting a goal and your goal is to increase market share or increase education of your product or whatever it is, you're going to need a true marketing person that understands how to get that accomplished and can say, okay, here's your goal. Well, here's our different tactics. You can't keep doing the same thing. You have to try something new, be bold, be innovative, maybe do something that costs a little less, and also make sure you're creating content that is educating people and not just checking boxes, both internally and externally, and connecting with them.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Today we have Sarah Bumgarner on the show, and she's with Saad Hospice, Hospice with a Heart, and we're going to talk about the CFO, the money decision maker in your company. Do they battle you for marketing, or do they help you budget for it? Hey, I'm Karen. I'm a former CPA, entrepreneur, business consultant with big ideas.
Welcome to Cheers to Business.
Hey, Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
The reason I wanted to have you on the show today is because you've done marketing. That's your career.
Yes, over 10 years plus.
Right. Yeah. And so you didn't happen to be at this one meeting I was with. You know, at Coast and DocRx, marketing falls under the CFO role. And so I was having lunch with Jane Glover, who's head over our marketing. She is in a group, the marketing. What's the name of that group?
We really just called our medical marketing meetings.
Cool. So y'all all just get together and
quarterly,
and just toss ideas at each other.
Yeah. So just different marketing people from the different medical places around.
Does it have to be medical?
I think so. I didn't really know about it until I joined Saad Hospices as their marketing director, and I think either Jennifer Schuler or Jane, one of them, reached out to me and invited me to join the group.
No, that's cool. I do think having people to toss ideas with that are in the same type of industry or do what you do is very important.
Yeah, and sometimes we'll email each other in between meetings because they're quarterly and be like, "Hey, I'm trying to do this. What program did you use and find success in?" And people respond back and forth. So it's really helpful.
See, I think every facet. I don't care if you're the Bookkeepers Association or just some kind of PR group, HR group, or whatever. But anyway, I was at this luncheon that was being hosted, and I was the only financial person there. But because marketing falls under me, I wanted to sit in. And they were listening to me talk, and they were floored because I see marketing as an investment. And so some of them, and I'm not going to say who because I don't want to drive bus, said, no, we have to fight for every penny. We have to fight. And so that's the topic of the discussion today. Have you ever faced that?
Yeah, I think I faced that in, past jobs and certainly in ways in this current job too.
All right. So there's a theory, and I've said it on this podcast before, that I think marketing should be, 7 to 8%. So if your sales are at 5,000, then keep it at 7 to 8%. That's okay, but you want to grow. So when they jump and they go to 10,000, don't say yay. Say yay, but don't keep your budget the same that it was. Increase it to a 7-8%. The marketing's growing, so your sales can grow.
Exactly.
All right. Now, what should they do if their sales are only 500 and they're crying?
I guess, and they would need to, think of ways that they could figure out a budget that they could use and really hit some of those things, or reach out to some of the resources where it's not so high value, I guess.
Right.
You could run an ad on TV, and if you want Jeopardy at, 6 o'clock or whatever, that's going to be a way higher price point than maybe, one of the other channels that doesn't get as much traction. Same with radio, things like that.
Yeah,
so you kind of make your money work for you.
I think that it has to be seen as a capital investment.
Yes.
I think if you want, obviously, if you're crying and you're at 500, people don't know about you.
Exactly.
So then you have to get off the checkbook.
A lot of the place that I worked at before, for instance, a restaurant that I worked for, and they were like, we need to get people in the door. We need to get people. So let's put together some events. If we have events, they'll come. And so, we did like a running group, live music a couple nights, trivia night, things like that. But people don't just walk in the door because they don't know about the events. The people that are walking in the door already support your business. Yeah. So we would run ads in Lanyap, and we would, promote it via social media and just do some boosted posts, things like that. We weren't spending tens of thousands of dollars, and starting small like that, he was able to see, oh, wow, like, people started coming. So you got to advertise it to get people there.
So return on investment.
And then because of that was willing to maybe put a little more into it, or if we got a, better band, promote it even more, things like that. So
yeah, it really is, because I was just shocked that some of the people were there they stared at me while I was talking, because it was like they couldn't believe what I was saying. And I think every financial person thinks like I do. So, egotistical, I guess.
I think too, if you've never had a true like marketing person that can show you that ROI or explain that process like you're saying, then if you have a marketing person in that spot that's maybe, especially in the healthcare industry, more of a like clinical person that does some marketing, then it's hard to have that argument for what you're saying. So they don't really think of it from the, viewpoint of like an ROI or building a brand or things like that. And so it's hard for them to not convince the CFO, but, make the dollars and cents.
I think to sum up what you just said, the person you're talking to, are they seeing it as an expense or an investment? And if they are only going to see it as an expense, you're not going to sell that to the person that's got to prove it. So learn a lesson here in that if you go ahead and do the math of what you think that return can be, people are going to be more acceptable to listen to you if you can show them we're going to gain this much more.
Yeah.
Projected based on if we do this, instead of just I need this much. For what?
And I think too that goes back to like, how are you tracking your data too? So for instance, we have a system that we use and we can track our market share and things like that. So I can connect, what we did in that quarter to how much our market share.
So what do
grew.
y'all use, if you don't mind me asking?
We use a program called Telehealth.
Okay.
And it's for home health and hospice agencies. And so we can see, how much we're doing in Mobile and Baldwin counties. We can see like which doctors we work with more, physicians, hospital facilities, different things like that. So like if our goal is to increase more hospital facilities, I can track that.
Well, I would think that would help on the other side for target marketing. So you want to target those areas.
Yes, which is great because, for instance, when I was at the nonprofit that I worked at before, we didn't have all that analytical data. It was me and a spreadsheet. It was like, okay, we had this event and we had this many people come, and now we have.
Yeah, we're trying to get, how'd you hear about us?
Right. And that's kind of hard sometimes with, when it comes to home health and hospice, because literally you could have heard of it from 4 people: your physician, the nurse manager, your sister's cousin's friend that you Saad before, and then an advertisement you saw on TV.
I think every company ought to have some kind of tracking. Some people call them, a CRM.
Yes.
Client or customer retention management software. I think it's absolutely necessary to know, one, you can track your salespeople. They're held accountable. You can run a report and see who you hadn't touched in a long time. Follow-ups. Set them as tasks and reminders.
Yeah.
So there's so much to learn from this show today, and I really think that expense versus investment.
I agree.
And is it a battle or do we budget for it?
Right. Like you said, it's an investment in your brand and getting the word out there in your company and things like that. And I think that's very important because, your brand is who you are throughout your employees, what you do, what you offer, all of it. So
what is the best reason you can think of? Because a lot of business owners, I do all my social media. I do all my content. I ain't doing none of that stuff. One, it ain't my circle.
I mean, hands down, the top reason I would do it is it's so time consuming. Like if you're a business owner, I don't see how you have time to run your own social media account. I just don't run it well. Let me say that.
That's a better way to put it.
I don't see how you have time to run it well. And I know there's a lot of kids these days that are like, oh, I can do it. I can do these things. But having a true marketing person that knows that you're setting a goal and your goal is to increase market share or increase education of your product or whatever it is, you're going to need a true marketing person that understands how to get that accomplished and can say, okay, here's your goal. Well, here's our different tactics. And along with that, like you're already running ads in the Chamber of Business View, you're running ads on Fox 10, whatever you're doing, then also you can say, okay, well, let's mimic some of these so that you're building that brand by being consistent in what you're advertising.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot, and we don't have to air this if you don't want to, but what are you most proud of since going to work with Saad?
I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is just, one, like my vice president is just this amazing thinker. You know what I mean? Like he's one of those guys that's got big dreams, big thoughts, and it encourages you to also have big dreams and big thoughts. And so some of the things that I've done in the past that I'm good at, like social media or putting an ad up or things like that, he's like, we could do that, or what if we did this, and really think about it, because we have the inpatient facility. We have a lot of families that come through. And
can I say something?
Yeah.
My sister and her husband, he recently lost his mother, and they went to the facility. They don't have anything but good to say about y'all. They said it was, for an awful experience, it was fantastic. If it had to happen anyway.
And that's what we're trying to provide is, although it is not something we like to think about or talk about, it is going to happen to everyone. Mm-hmm. And we want to provide an amazing experience for that end of life situation. And the retreat is gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's like a cabin in the woods, and.
Well, my sister and her husband say thank you.
Oh, well, I'm sorry for your loss, but I'm glad that they were able to come there and have that. And that's one of the things that, like, I hear all the time is, like, I talk to people, I talk to families, our staff talks to families, we all have these amazing stories of, like, maybe how they got there or their life story. Like, we get to hear about some of the most amazing people. There was a guy that was a pilot for Ben Carson, and his wife was just telling us, like, all these amazing stories. I mean, everybody has a story, right? And so I know that's a big thing right now is, like, storytelling, but we really do get to help remember these people and help them live on through their stories. And that's one thing that I have set as a goal of mine for marketing for this year and moving forward is, like, how do we do a better job of thanking the families that trusted us with this care, but also providing a way for their loved one to live on through sharing their story or for helping them remember their story in a way. And that's not something you would think of as marketing, but in a way it kind of is, because their story is going to help somebody else, or your sister's telling her story of their experience, and if we maybe recorded it or something like that, and then we had a channel that we were thinking of, like, putting these so that if somebody's at the facility and maybe they're having a hard time or maybe they're really grieving, hearing maybe your sister's story could help them in that grief in some way.
Like, I can make that happen.
Yeah. I mean, that's some of the things that, because I'm like, ooh, we could run a really nice ad and show a picture of the facility. And he's like, or we could do a better job. And so I think that's one of the things that I've loved since I started there. And just being around, like, they're a Christian company, and just being able to be around, like, other Christian believers, and, like, we pray at meetings and we have chapel on Thursdays, and just being able to be in that environment, especially when I went through a really hard time in my life this last year, to just have that support system and for them to bring me in so quickly and be like, your family. And so I think it's a great opportunity for me to grow as, like, a marketer, but also help other people in the community, because a lot of people don't know about the facility.
Yeah. What I heard in all that is find your story and tell your story. At the same time, show what it can mean. So if you have an expense CFO or a battle CFO, then you can show them, because it's going to be about the numbers at that point. If they don't get the concept, it's going to be about the number.
And I know that everybody says this old cliche, like, think outside the box. But, like, if you go to your CFO and you're like, oh, I want to do this, and, like, can we budget for this and that? And they're like, no, I don't see the point of that. Like, I almost take that as a challenge. Like, okay, we can't do it that way. Well, I'm going to figure out a way we can do it. And maybe sometimes that causes you to have a better idea because you thought about it more and, like, challenged yourself in a way. And sometimes even with my bosses, I'm like, So I put together like this whole integrated marketing plan, and it's only going to cost, this much. And they're like, ooh. See, so maybe we do one of those and then we'll go back to the whole plan.
See, I think you should start, hey, I found a way to get us this. Then lay out the plan and let the money come last.
Yeah, that's what I need to do. And so, like I said, I'm so used to doing it the old way that I've had to like kind of rethink some things, which is good. I think it's, innovative and new and things like that. So it really challenges me. But, for anybody out there that's facing some of the same challenges, maybe break it down smaller to reach those goals. And of course, like you said, the analytics. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think that's got to be part of it.
You have to track what you're
because
doing.
If you want to move into a marketing area, you can get a college student or your sister's, niece's, cousin's boyfriend
Right.
to do it for you. Or, do you hire somebody in-house or do you hire a group? There's some great groups here in town.
There really is.
I mean, Mobile's got great talent.
I saw
in
an
it.
advertisement for a new one the other day, and I was like, "Ooh, what is this?" And then, of course, I'm like Googling it. But
Yeah, I think it's about, you have to judge the return on investment, because the more creative people are, the higher their price tag. I'm sorry, it's supply and demand.
Yeah.
But I think a company getting big enough or on a growth pattern has a marketing team inside, but then they use a full-scale advertising company that's on the outside. I don't think it all should be truly in-house or truly out-of-house.
Yeah.
Because if it's just out-of-house, they don't know you. They don't know
that
about
touch.
compliance
Yeah.
issues. I mean, you cannot post that picture
That's
or
true.
say, one word could make you illegal or non-compliant. I've learned that in the healthcare field.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like you really have to get to know your product to be able to like talk about, especially on social media.
You mean your story?
Yeah.
Their story?
Yeah. Especially on like social media. And like we do share some things, but we don't get specific. But I mean, even in some of the posts that like are on the Saad Hospice inpatient page, like on Facebook, I mean, some of them you're like, oh, that's so sweet. And you're like, and that's the point. Like we want it, of course, to be like a celebration of life. Everybody has their own, way of dealing with things and stories.
We talked around a couple of issues and, you're selling to outside. You got your social media and it's not about how many likes, make it about the profit. But it's also, you've got to sell inside your company. How can you prepare them to talk and want to sell if they don't know what they're selling or why you're there?
Yeah, I agree. We have a very large staff that's out in the field as well as our inpatient staff. And so I think it's a little easier when you're in the facility to kind of, see the brand stuff around the walls and, you got the posters up and things like that. But one thing that I've started doing is we have a orientation training once a month. So for new people that come in, and I'll go in and talk about our brand, the Saad Hospice brand, and how they are coming on as brand ambassadors.
Oh, wow. That's so smart.
And so what we talk about is, why do we have the logo the way we have it? Why do we use the colors throughout the things that we do in our, admissions packets and our cafe menu and just things like that? And then we talk about how their uniform is even part of the brand. Like if you're going to a house and you show up and you're wearing a t-shirt and, your scrubs and your hair's a mess and things like that, like that person might not want to open the door to you. So you are a brand ambassador and you're representing SAD, the way you talk to people, the way all the things you do. So I think it's really important that the staff is educated, and we go through and we kind of talk about within the programs. We have bereavement and counseling, and then we have, chaplains, and we have social workers, and we have RNs and aides and all kinds of stuff, right? So we've got all these people that are doing their job, and then I'm like, oh, hey, did you know that we're doing this today? And did you know that we started doing this? And so I try to go around and talk, and I think a newsletter is a great way to do that. I know a lot of companies do a monthly newsletter. I think Steven does the orthopedic group. He does that monthly newsletter, and it's internal. And so what he does is he gets division person to write an article that's going to go in that. So it might have like Zep birthdays, and it might have like educational spotlight, but then each like division has something that's going on.
That was so smart what you just said, and made me think of again how a numbers expense budget person, if they can see what that's going to do for their productivity, ultimately it's going to hit that bottom line.
If you have people that are okay accepting those staff members in their house, they're going to be happier with the service, and they're going to continue, and you're not going to have patients revoking and going to like another hospice, So I think it's about, the services you provide, but also the way you provide them. So are you caring? Are you offering them things? Or do you know the other services?
Your people are your company.
Exactly. And I think that's it. Most every business.
It's any business. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's home
Yeah,
health care
that's
or
everywhere.
hospice.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's every single
Your people
business.
or your
I don't care
brand-
what kind of business you have.
They're your brand and they're your biggest cheerleaders too. And so if they don't know what's going on, then they can't tell other people about it.
Sarah, cheers to you for coming on the show today, and thank you for caring and instilling so much togetherness.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here and thanks for having me.
Do you have a cheers?
Cheers to CFOs and VPs of companies that understand that marketing is the lifeblood of growing a company.
I'll cheers to that. All right, Sarah, somebody needs your company. How do they find you?
They can go to saadhealthcare.com and you can call 251-380-3810. And we're on Facebook, Saad Healthcare, or you can follow the hospice page at the Saad Hospice Inpatient Facility.
Sarah Bumgarner, thank you so much for coming today and doing this podcast, because it's been a great conversation.
Well, thank you for having me.
Please be sure to subscribe to Cheers to Business podcast on iTunes or anywhere else that you get your podcast. Visit our Facebook and be sure to give us a like. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to discuss, shoot us an email from the website cheerstobusiness.com.